Okay, folks, buckle up because this deep dive is going to be a weird one.
Oh,
Yeah, we're we're looking at this summer festival in Germany,
okay.
and it's put on by a victim support organization.
Hmm.
Like one of those groups that's really trying to help people who've been through some tough times.
Right.
So we've got their official report,
Mhm.
all serious and formal,
Yeah.
and then we've got this transcript of a memorial concert they held.
Oh,
And let me tell you, these two sources, they don't exactly line up.
really?
It's almost like someone hit the random button
Yeah.
when they were planning this event.
Well, that's certainly an interesting combination.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, you've got this like really meticulous report, almost clinical, breaking down what happened at the festival
Yeah,
based on an audio recording they made.
I see.
And then kind of woven into this, we've got this almost surreal performance piece.
Yeah, that's what's throwing me off here.
Hmm.
Like the report starts by setting the scene. The beautiful summer day, people are gathering for this memorial concert.
Mm.
Everyone's somber and respectful.
Yeah.
The vibe you'd expect.
Uh-huh.
But then the document mentions this weird undercurrent of, I don't even know how to put it.
Okay.
It says there was this jammering lamentation coming from the audience,
Mm.
like before the event even officially started.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a very specific detail to include.
right.
And a little unsettling, too.
Yeah, it's like they're saying there was this like palpable sense of grief
Yeah.
and distress in the crowd,
Mhm.
even before any of the formal stuff began.
Interesting.
Right. It wasn't just like, polite mourning.
No.
These people were really carrying some heavy stuff.
It sounds like it.
So I'm already picturing a pretty intense atmosphere.
I can imagine.
What happens when the concert actually kicks off?
Well, at first it seems pretty standard.
Okay.
Formal greetings, acknowledging the victims they're honoring.
Hmm.
A little music starts playing. Pretty typical memorial stuff.
Yeah.
At least from the way a document describes it.
Okay, and then, bam, enter the rap interlude.
Oh.
Yeah, I got to be honest, that's not what I was
I'm a crap
expecting.
interlude, huh?
And apparently this rap is all about this guy named Mirko,
Okay.
who the document calls the ultimate victim.
The ultimate victim.
Is that even like a normal thing to say?
Not that I've ever heard.
Yeah, and it gets even weirder when you look at the lyrics.
Oh.
They basically paint this picture of Mirko as like constantly downtrodden,
Mm-hmm.
Always bullied, always getting the short end of the stick.
Right.
It's like they're presenting him as like the embodiment of suffering.
Wow.
And then to top it all off, the rapper claims he's coming in
Okay.
with a rap.
Pick up
Mine.
me mine.
Yeah, which means like nasty or mean,
Mm-hmm.
to help Mirko.
I'm a little confused.
Yeah, like they're using humor
Right.
and pretty dark humor at that.
In a memorial concert.
In a memorial concert that's supposed to be about, honoring victims.
That's where the children's choir comes in,
Oh, no.
which somehow makes things even more bizarre.
Really?
They start singing this song,
Okay.
Oh, Mirko, oh, oh,
Oh, Mirko. Oh.
which from what I gather seems to be like a well-known song
Well.
within this particular victim support community.
Okay, wait, hold on. I need you to break this down for me.
Okay.
Because the document describes this Oh Mirko song
Right.
as having these three distinct parts.
Mm-hmm.
The first part is hopeful.
Okay.
Second part gets sad.
Right.
But then the third part, they use the word lächerlich,
Leisurely.
which means like ridiculous, right?
Yes. Ridiculous.
And apparently the audience starts laughing at Mirko at this point.
Oh, wow. You're picking up on a key moment here.
Yeah.
This is where the whole event takes a turn.
Okay.
It goes from, somber and supportive to something else entirely.
Yeah.
The fact that the audience starts laughing and that the report, explicitly points this out
Right.
suggests that the tone of the song, really shifts dramatically.
Yeah.
In that third act, it almost becomes mocking.
I can only imagine how jarring that must have been for everyone.
Yeah, especially for Mirko.
Okay, so let me get this straight.
Mm-hmm.
We've got this memorial concert that's already super heavy with grief.
Right.
Then we have a rap song about this ultimate victim
Uh-huh.
that uses dark humor.
Right.
And then we have a children's choir
Yeah.
that ends up making everyone laugh at this poor guy.
Yeah.
I am so lost right now.
And it gets even more complicated.
Oh, no.
The document says that the moderator,
Mm,
the person running the event,
right.
sees all of this happening, sees Mirko start to cry
Yeah.
and decides to just stop the concert right then and there.
Oh, wow.
Like immediately shuts the whole thing down.
You'd think that's where it ends.
You'd think so, right?
But no, that's where it really goes off the rails.
What happens?
The audience is not happy about the concert being cut short. They start booing,
Oh, wow.
and the whole thing descends into chaos.
The document uses the word tumult, so it sounds like things got pretty heated.
Yeah, and all this anger and frustration from the audience. That's what leads to this whole official investigation.
Right.
Which is how we have this detailed report in the first place.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so just to recap.
Okay.
Memorial concert for victims.
Yeah.
Rap song about this guy, Mirko, who's like the poster child for suffering. Children's choir that turns into a laughing at Mirko session.
Yeah.
Moderator shuts the whole thing down.
Well,
And now the audience is furious.
that about sums it up.
And this is all before the official investigation even starts.
Yeah. Wow.
What in the world were they thinking?
Yeah, what was supposed to happen at this event?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is, and it takes us into some pretty fascinating territory. The intersection of art and trauma and societal expectations about dealing with grief.
Yeah.
But before we dive into all that, I think we need to take a closer look at this O Mirko song,
Okay.
because it really seems to be at the heart of what went wrong here.
All right. I'm all ears because right now I'm picturing a train wreck in slow motion. And I need someone to explain how it even got on the tracks in the first place.
Well, to do that, we need to unpack the lyrics,
Oh.
the musical structure, and maybe even think about the psychology behind using humor in such a sensitive context.
Okay, unpack it. Let's hear those insights.
All right, so digging into this O Mirko song, the document actually gives us a lot of detail about the structure
Okay.
and how it's presented. Remember those three distinct parts?
Yeah, it goes from hopeful to sad to, well, straight up ridiculous.
Right.
According to the report.
Yeah.
Which I guess explains the laughter.
Mhm.
But wouldn't you think someone would have noticed this problem during rehearsals? Like, who thought this was a good idea?
Well, that's where things get interesting.
Oh?
We have to consider the possibility that this tonal shift, this descent into the Lächerlich,
Right.
it might have been intentional.
Wait, are you saying they wanted people to laugh at Mirko
It's possible.
at a memorial concert
I know it seems,
for victims?
yeah, it seems counterintuitive.
That seems incredibly misguided.
On the surface, yes.
Yeah.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
There are some schools of thought, particularly in trauma therapy,
Yeah.
that suggest humor, even dark humor,
Right.
can be a coping mechanism,
Okay.
a way to reclaim power in the face of, terrible experiences.
I can kind of see that. Like, if you can laugh at something awful,
Yeah,
it loses some of its power over you.
exactly.
But wouldn't that be a very personal thing? To laugh at your own trauma.
Right.
Turning someone else's story into a punchline feels different.
Yes.
And frankly, kind of messed up.
You're right. Context is everything. This
Yeah.
wasn't just some random open mic night.
No.
This was a memorial concert
Right.
organized by a victim support organization.
Exactly.
They have a responsibility to
Yeah.
create a safe and supportive environment for the people they're trying to help.
Okay, so if we assume,
Yeah,
and it's a big if,
it is.
that this whole laughing at Mirko thing
Right.
was some misguided attempt at, like, therapeutic humor,
Yeah.
didn't they realize it could backfire?
Well,
Like, what if Mirko didn't find it funny?
that's the risk you take.
What if other victims in the audience?
When you try to use humor to address trauma,
Yeah.
especially in a public setting,
Right.
it's like walking a tightrope.
Uh-huh.
One wrong step,
Yeah.
and the whole thing collapses.
And in this case, it seems like they took a giant leap in the wrong direction.
It does seem that way.
It makes you wonder about the people who put this event together.
Yeah.
Like, what was their understanding of trauma and healing? Did they consult with any experts?
Unfortunately, that information isn't in the documents. But it does raise some important questions about the training and awareness of those working in victim support services.
Yeah, because right now it just seems like a recipe for disaster.
Even with the best intentions, a lack of understanding can lead to well-meaning efforts doing more harm than good.
Okay, so we've got this potentially ill-conceived attempt at therapeutic humor gone wrong.
Yeah.
But there's another piece of the puzzle I'm still struggling with.
Yeah.
The audience.
Right.
They were clearly not on board with the laughing at Mirko thing.
No, they weren't.
And they got even more upset when the moderator shut the concert down. What's going on there?
Well, to understand that, we need to think about the expectations that people bring to an event like this. This wasn't just a concert. It was a memorial.
A memorial.
A space for collective mourning and remembrance.
Yeah.
People come to these events to connect with others who understand their pain, to feel supported, to find solace.
So when the tone shifted from somber remembrance to something that felt like, I don't know, making fun of a victim.
Right.
It violated this unspoken agreement.
Yeah.
About what this event was supposed to be.
Absolutely.
And when the moderator shut it down, it was almost like they were siding with Mirko.
Yeah.
Like acknowledging that something inappropriate had happened.
Exactly. It was a validation of their feelings.
Right.
But for the people in the audience who didn't see it that way, who maybe even found the humor cathartic or relatable, the shutdown felt like a betrayal.
Right.
Like their perspective wasn't being respected.
So you've got this clash of interpretations.
Exactly.
Different understandings of what's appropriate or helpful.
Yeah.
No wonder things erupted into chaos.
And that chaos, I think, highlights a really crucial point. When you're dealing with trauma, there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
What works for one person might be deeply triggering for another, and trying to force everyone into the same emotional mold, especially in a public event like this.
It's almost guaranteed to create friction.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Good.
But this still feels like a very specific, very German situation. What can we, the listeners, take away from this bizarre incident?
Oh, that's a great question.
Is there a universal lesson here, or is this just a cautionary tale about German victim support organizations and their questionable taste in music?
I think there are some broader takeaways here.
Okay.
Things that apply beyond this specific event.
All right.
It's a reminder that even with the best intentions, trying to use humor to address trauma is incredibly risky.
Okay.
It requires a deep understanding of the nuances and a sensitivity to individual experiences.
And maybe a recognition that what might be funny to one person can be deeply painful to another.
Yes, especially when you're dealing with something as complex as trauma.
Exactly.
It also highlights the importance of clear communication and setting expectations.
Right.
If the organizers of this event had been more transparent about their intentions with the O Mirko song, if they had prepared the audience for the tonal shifts and the use of humor, maybe things wouldn't have spiraled out of control the way they did.
So transparency is key.
Yes.
Don't spring unexpected dark humor on a room full of grieving people.
It's probably a good rule of thumb.
Got it. What about this idea of collective mourning? The fact that the audience was so invested in the event, so ready to be outraged when they felt like it went off the rails, does that tell us something about how we process trauma as a society?
That's a fantastic question, and one that I think deserves its own deep dive.
Okay.
But it does suggest that there's a real hunger for these shared experiences of grief and remembrance, especially in a world that often feels very isolating and individualistic.
So maybe the lesson here isn't just about avoiding bad humor, but about recognizing the power of these collective spaces and the responsibility we have to make sure they're truly supportive and inclusive.
I agree.
And maybe leave the children's choirs out of it next time.
I think that's a wise suggestion.
Okay.
But before we wrap up, I want to pose one final question for you to ponder. Could this whole thing have been avoided if they'd just taken a different approach?
Okay.
What if instead of this jarring performance, they'd focused on creating a space for shared stories?
Right.
Quiet reflection, just being together in their grief.
I see what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes the most powerful way to support victims isn't through these grand gestures or elaborate performances, but through creating a sense of community and understanding.
Exactly.
A space where people feel safe enough to just be with their pain.
Yes.
Without feeling pressured to laugh or cry or perform in any particular way.
Exactly. And it makes me wonder if in our rush to find innovative or creative ways to address trauma, we sometimes overlook the simple power of human connection. Yeah. The power of just listening, offering a shoulder to cry on, sharing our stories without judgment.
This whole deep dive has really taken me on a journey.
Yeah.
I started out completely bewildered.
I bet.
Then I was confused. And now I've landed somewhere in the realm of thoughtful contemplation.
Well, that's good.
Which I guess is the whole point of this podcast, right?
I think so.
To take these seemingly random events and find the deeper meaning, the unexpected insights.
That's the goal.
So in this case, I think we've uncovered some valuable truths
Yeah.
about the complexities of dealing with trauma, the dangers of using humor inappropriately, and the profound need for spaces where people can connect and grieve authentically.
Absolutely.
And maybe, just maybe, it's a reminder to approach these sensitive topics with a little more humility and a lot more awareness.
Yeah, because as this whole Merca situation shows, good intentions aren't always enough.
Right.
Sometimes they can even make things worse.
Well said.
Thank you.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
It's certainly given us all a lot to think about.
It has, and I hope it encourages our listeners to reflect on their own experiences with grief and trauma and how they navigate these challenging emotions, both individually and as part of a larger community.
Thanks for guiding us through this one. It's been an experience.
It has been.
And for those of you listening, we'll be back soon with another deep dive.
Yes.
Into the unexpected, the bizarre, and the thought-provoking.
Sounds good.
Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those brains buzzing.